Well, Rachel, I have to tell you, that was such an eye-opener. And what a refreshing conversation because, it's very easy to get locked into your own world and your own demographic and your own little bubble and not really have an appreciation for what's going on in the outside world when it comes to obstetrics specifically. So I have to say, our conversation with Dr. Anthony was shocking, awesome, and really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's amazing because what she does is she supports the moms at the highest risk. Um, Many of the babies are born through Medicaid, many of the moms are in federal assistance, and she's built it in such a way through grants and donations and federal assistance that she's built a business that she wants to sustain. She has a very different model. She's not going to exit and sell this to whoever for
Mhm.
tens of millions of dollars. And what she is saying, though, is as a result of wrapping these moms, these high risk moms, in a village, as she says, that their outcomes and their babies' outcomes are so much better that it's hard to even compare to the national average. So,
Absolutely. I did want to mention one other thing. So many women feel shame or really afraid to admit what they may be going through from a health and equity
yeah.
standpoint. And she goes to literal ends of the earth to make sure that the experience for these moms would never result in that type of emotion. So I was very impressed. Let's hear from her. Welcome to the Business of the V. Hello, friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Alyssa Dweck.
And I'm Rachel Braun Scherl. Each week, we bring you the most fascinating investors, inventors, entrepreneurs, academics, and healthcare practitioners who are making things happen in women's sexual and reproductive health.
If you are a woman, know a woman, have a business, or care about your V health and wellness, fasten your seatbelts and listen in to another informative and inspiring episode.
We are so excited to have Dr. Renaisa Anthony with us, who's the founder of MOMentum Park. And as you know, we meet people in weird and wonderful ways. And Dr. Anthony and I met backstage at the recent health conference in Vegas, which is the biggest the biggest venue I've ever seen. So it was nice to be able to have a smaller conversation, a more intimate conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
So we want to start with you. Tell us about you, how you came to this point where you're the founder of MOMentum Park. You have an interesting background and an amazing amount of energy for the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. I was born preterm. I tell people I didn't know it, but I was born to do this. And kind of the perinatal OB-GYN like bloodline is runs through my veins. My great grandmother was the birthing woman in Arkansas back when they didn't get the names of midwives, but because Black women and women of color couldn't go to hospitals to deliver, they had women in the community that did it. And that was my great grandmother. And my grandmother, who sadly we lost last April, and I still can't believe this, at 91, she was the first nurse's aide in the integrated hospitals in the South and then in Tennessee, and then migrated with my grandfather north to the Midwest. And then her daughter, my maternal aunt, she is the first labor and delivery nurse in this space. And then I'm the first physician to enter this space. So I was born to do this. And I think there were years when I was like, no, I'm a general surgeon. What do you mean? What OB? And mamas and babies. And as much as I tried to avoid it, it just naturally was something that I loved. And what I realized being in hospital systems for 20 years was that majority of what my mamas need aren't necessarily medical. And I can't address the things that they truly need in 30 minutes for a new patient visit or 15 minutes for a return patient visit. And I mean, when I tell you, I was always at an academic medical center But it was so important to me with the charitable days that we got with my FTE was that I wanted to be at a federally qualified health center. And I'd always be there, volunteer my time. And I loved it because you could practice evidence-based medicine, but there were so
Yeah.
many social issues. And because I had the lived experience, my family had the lived experience, that was very easy for me to connect and educate my patients.
Well,
But
I
it,
saw Alyssa laughing when you said you can't do everything you need in 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and that's
Oh
sort of
my
the story
gosh.
of every
Yeah.
physician in this space.
Well, we really are not serving our patients wherever they come from, well, with 15 minutes of care when so much education is needing. So that is just really resonates with me, is why I was shaking my head and burying my forehead.
well, what I learned more than anything, I was like, I'm in the community and I'm at a Target and people are coming up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Anthony, you delivered my baby," or "Oh my gosh, you," and I didn't know who she was. I didn't know who she was, and I'd have to, you know, play it off and say, "Oh my gosh, yes, how's the baby?" And I just thought,
Whatever his or her name is.
yes, and I'm thinking this is not what I became a physician for. I became a physician to transform the health and lives and well-being of mamas so that they could do that for their babies. And it just got to a point where I was just like, I have to do something different. And I didn't know exactly what that was. And so it was very interesting that you asked me before we launched about the Healthy Families Project. I somewhat, quote unquote, semi retired from academia in 2017. And I said, I'm going to do this consulting work. I really want to combine medicine, public health, and policy and make a difference with, public health departments, hospitals, really talk about how you can build systems that are going to support and merge the clinic with the community. And I did that through just a series of events. I somehow stumbled onto technology. And I had an aha moment where I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute. I've done medicine, I've done public health, I've done policy. I don't even know what technology is, but we have not applied it to women's health. And I want to be a part of that because when I hear front end and back end, they mean something completely different in the world of obstetrics than they do for technology, right? Or when they
Yeah.
talk about full stacks, I was like, I don't know why they're talking about pancakes. But now I know what that means. And so I moved out here to Silicon Valley and through a series of events, series of conversations, trying to raise private funds to start a corporation and hearing, back in 2019, we have a femtech company in our portfolio, or, you want to cover pregnancy and 50% is covered by Medicaid. How are you going to become a unicorn that way? Well, I ended up finding a very generous angel investor who believed in what we were doing. And so I was able to truly launch MOMentum Park, where moms come first in 2020, with the precedence that it's like, hey, women spend majority of their pregnancy outside of the clinic, outside of the hospital, and that's where you're going to find us. And so we create a sisterhood of SHEROs, which is our signature program. And I tell folks it is not a program, but it is an experience, it's an initiative, it's a movement where we take doulas, midwives, community health workers that we train as perinatal health workers, and we wrap around our moms in different communities to be able to make sure that they have the perinatal and social support. And we basically pick up where the clinic leaves off. So all of our moms have their either OBGYNs or midwives. They get to choose whoever they want, but we're the aunties that happen to know a little bit about this area too. We're the aunties that are going to be advocates for you to make sure that you're going to get that respectful maternal care. We're also the aunties that you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning. We never end, we never close. And then our big AI piece that we created with Shanice. Absolutely love her. Would love to demo her on our call if you want today. But she is a large language model and a customized GPT to serve the highest risk, highest cost, highest need moms that we lovingly refer to as the highest return on investment and impact.
Amazing. So I want to understand how this platform works. Are you providing medical care, or are you just supporting the medical care that these mamas are so in need for of and education? also, I noted that it's like a cell phone community. Is that how you're reaching out to everybody with SMS or with phone calls? How does that work? Take us through a day in the life.
Yeah, so a day in the life, and I would say, what's the experience of a Shero mom? We have 5 circles of Shero support. Our moms are referred to us from hospital systems, communities, and our greatest referral is word of mouth for former Shero moms or Shero moms that have gone through their pregnancy into parenthood. And I say that intentionally because once a Shero mom, always a Shero mom. So those
Okay.
5 circles of support are you're going to find us where moms are. And these moms are on average anywhere from 20 to around 35. We have a couple of 40 something year olds, but they're rare. Most are going to be in that typical reproductive age. So the first circle of support is social media. You're going to find us on Instagram and TikTok. My team is able to put together content that resonates with them, the trends. I don't understand it sometimes myself, but it's what's speaking to them. And that's where they're going to get the education. That's where they're going to get what's coming up in person in the community, and then also what we do virtually. So we always have different ways for moms to get involved. If you're on bed rest or if you just don't feel like coming out, you can join us in our second circle, which is our She Spot. Our She Spot, think Zoom, kind of what we're doing now, but it's that married with what you get with a gym membership. When you know we've got Zumba on this day, we've got cycling on that day, but for us, we've got pregnancy 101. We've got mommy and mocktails night for moms who are like, hey, I'm 8 months pregnant. And a year ago, I was out in the club and I can't go to the club. So I'm going to get on this and talk to some other moms who are pregnant. We've got our little mocktails. So we bring that social environment. We bring different experts. So like Dr. Alyssa, I would love to like what you love to do about supplements and nutrition. We bring those experts in to really educate our moms, and we do it by reaching them exactly where they are on their cell phones, in their back pockets, or their purses. The third one is our Shero Squad. Every mom that is referred to us that is pregnant, they get assigned a Shero squad member. And that's kind of like their auntie, their big sister. And we check in with them every 2 weeks to assess any perinatal or social challenges that they may have. So it's individualized. Some are super smart and already know the perinatal stuff, but what they're dealing with is a personal issue with a sick parent. Well, your Shero is going to help you walk through that. And every 2 weeks, we assess how's the baby doing? How are you doing? Any social challenges, perinatal challenges? When's your next appointment? And how can I get you prepared for that? And leverage the fourth circle, which is Shanice, our AI customized GPT, in which we say, okay, her appointment, she's going to be 18 weeks. What can you expect at an 18-week visit? And then we can text that over to her. We do have text to mom, and we found that it works with some, but for the most part, it makes it feel more organizational and corporate. And what our moms love is that it feels more like a family and a sisterhood.
Do you collaborate with their healthcare providers? I mean, OBs, as you know, are particularly possessive of their patients and their style of care. Is there collaboration with the platform and the doctor, or is it really kind of two separate things?
It's two separate things unless they want it to be. So when I use the word auntie, it's very much auntie. So if you have an
Yeah.
auntie that happens to be like, I would have, if we're going to be close friends, so I'd be like, Dr. D. I always take someone's name and give them a new name. But
We do that in my family too. No one has a real name.
and it's like, yeah, my aunt's an OB, but I have an OB because I may be in a different state. But our moms will call us and it'll get escalated to me or another OB or medical provider if it's a medical issue. So, for instance,
Yeah.
one of our moms just this week, she was very concerned because she started contracting and she hadn't felt her baby move. And when she reached out to her Shero is like, okay, this is a medical thing. You're gonna go see your OB, and then we escalate it to the medical person that's part of that Shero pod. We call them Prego pods. So it got
Okay.
escalated to me, and she called me when she was there. And basically, I'm there to hold space to make sure that she's getting the right care. And what
Sure.
tends to happen is if you think in an OB clinic you get 15 to 30 minutes, well, you even get less when you show up in triage and they're putting her on the monitor. Baby's fine, you're fine, hydrate, go home. And that doesn't give her any kind of assurance that her baby's okay. but I'm there to advocate for her. And so for this particular person, she had a loss before and she lost her baby, I think maybe at about 23, 24 weeks. And for her, she freaks out every single day, and rightfully so. That's very hard. And even though we had maternal reassurance and fetal reassurance from an OB perspective, what we didn't do is reassure the mom.
So here's today's hot flash. Per the March of Dimes, in the US, approximately 10.4% of babies were born prematurely in 2023, a rate that has remained high and consistent over the years.
Dr. Anthony, there's so many questions that are coming to mind. I mean, it's fascinating what you're talking about, but I can't help it. Like Dr. Dweck always wants to know the clinical applications. I want to understand what the business is. How does the money flow? That's number one. And my assumption is that by doing this, by wrapping her around all these circles and providing these services that she's not getting, that you are able to measure a difference in outcome. And I'm making these up, but maybe it's a decrease in postpartum depression. Maybe it's a decrease in C-section rate. Maybe it's an increase in the percentage that go back to work. So first is, how does the money flow? And the second is, how do you know this is working?
Absolutely. So we are funded by the federal government and from donations and other grants. And then we have academic partners that we get funding for as well. So that's kind of our cadre of funding.
So
And then,
is it free to the moms then?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I tell myself every day, if I start a menopause company, I could be a billionaire in 4 years, but this is where my heart is. And it's like, I took care of the highest risk, highest cost, highest need. They cannot pay for it. They're already on Medicaid. And these are the ones that are dying. So we're picking up where the hospitals lead off, and we're funding this through grants, the federal government, and contracts to be able to do it. And you asked me another question. Oh, the outcomes. The primary purpose is primary outcome is 90% of our SHERO babies will be alive and thriving at 14 weeks postpartum, and 95% of our SHERO moms will be alive and thriving postpartum at 14 to 16 weeks. And what I can say is we have 100% track rate right now. I mean, our numbers are only about 350 because we're growing in our ecosystems, and we were just funded 2 years ago in our biggest ecosystem, which is New Orleans. But we're
So
100%.
I have two more questions about that. So I'd love to know, I know the maternal mortality rate is embarrassingly high in the US and even higher for women of color. What is the comparative data? You have 100% of moms and babies thriving, after 14 weeks. How do you compare that to the abysmal, national numbers that we have?
Yeah, so I compared for Louisiana, which is our largest contract. We compared to the state maternal mortality rates and also the infant mortality rates. And so those rates, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama have the highest rates in the nation of maternal mortality. Infant mortality has gotten a little better for all states, but it's still the worst in the South. And so what we say is by coming in and offering this sisterhood, by walking these women with their sister, their SHERO sisters, it's a peer-to-peer and peer-to-professional support system, that by doing that, by giving them the education, the social opportunities, the social belonging, we do centering, but we don't call it centering to them. It's that you are put in a prego pod with all these other moms that are around the same gestational age, that we found that we're able to identify problems earlier. We're able to make sure in our outcomes that moms aren't going back and forth to triage with false pregnancies. Our moms are more compliant and actually coming to their prenatal and postpartum visits, and also that first new baby visit. Our moms are more likely to initiate breastfeeding. And if they don't continue actual nursing, giving their children and their babies breast milk, our moms report that they have less depression because they have it's very interesting because if you ask them, do they have less social issues? The social issues, if I still need WIC and I still need SNAP, that's still there. But their ability to cope, the coping mechanisms go up because they're learning from other women, and they're learning from women that are in the same boat as they are, and then also women that are a little bit more affluent. So we
How
have
many
different
people,
metrics that we
yeah.
follow
I'm
to do
just
that.
like from a statistical standpoint, how many people are on the platform at any one time? I know you said you have a lot of repeat customers, of course, but how many people are on the platform? Do you span the whole country, or is it just limited to Louisiana at this time?
We're limited to where we're funded. So right now we're in California, Nebraska, and Louisiana, and we're looking to scale to Mississippi in 2026. And so we're having conversations to be able to do in Jackson, Rankin County, I think is what it's called. We're having those conversations. And it depends which platform. So social media, we have over 1,200 moms and followers. And then we have over 55,000 views per quarter when I look at it of our education that's going out and shares. So that's probably our biggest reach. In our community, we always do community events that are live and in person. In a given quarter, we serve about 500 families because it's not just moms that are SHERO moms. We partner with our communities and we have advisory boards to do that. In terms of those who we're supporting at any given time that are actually pregnant, we have for our cases about 200 to 250 that are actively pregnant. And then, as you know, because it's not like diabetes where you have it forever, they're pregnant and then they're postpartum. And then we have our postpartum moms actually still in the ecosystem to give back and to support the moms that are coming in. And then through the Prego Pods, which is a text based kind of conversation that they have, we have about 369 moms that are on that. So there are multiple platforms that are all combined into one so that we can support moms and with these wraparound services and wraparound technology that they're using anyway.
And given how you're funded, Dr. Anthony, I come from the perspective you're always thinking about the exit, and you have a very important mission. Is there an exit, or is the vision that this will be taken over by the federal government, or that they'll help you, that will be your marketing arm, it will open doors to be doing this in all 50 states? What does success look like from a business perspective? Clearly, you're having the impact in the community that you're working with. You're having an enormous positive impact. But you have investors, and I'm doing that in air quotes.
Well,
Do
luckily,
you
I
have
have
to
angel
deliver a
investors.
return to
No,
anybody?
I do not. That's where I'm blessed to do this work.
Yeah.
So number one, I don't have an exit plan. I have a legacy plan. It's completely opposite.
I love
This
that.
is something when you think of like the Boys and Girls Club or the Girl Scouts, this is something that you never have to know that I founded it 100 years from now, that it needs to be here. And what would make me the happiest woman and part of my legacy is that I could be 95 years old and run into a mom who's pregnant and she says, "Oh, I'm a SHERO mom and I was a SHERO baby." And it's something that when people get pregnant, they think about WIC. They think about Healthy Start. For women of color and women who are at high risk of just so many different social, ecological issues, I want them to know and think, "Oh my gosh, I get to be a SHERO mom." So I don't have an exit plan. I've got a sustainability plan, and the sustainability plan is that continuing to collect our data across the states, since we're grant funded right now, is to take that data to be able to go to the states and the third party payers, and especially the MCOs and Medicaid, and say, "Hey, you have this problem. We've come in, we've self-funded this through grants for the past 4 years. Here's the data. We do this at cost, and this is what the return on investment looks like. And we would like third-party payers, namely Medicaid and private insurers, to cover it."
Sure. I guess the
Amazing.
only limitation that I could foresee is, does anybody not have a cell phone? Are there people you can't reach because they're not connected despite the inequities? Have you found that to be any sort of issue, or are we all at least lucky enough to be connected that way?
We have not found that issue. And don't quote me, but you can look it up yourself. It's like over 89%. It's somewhere between 87 and 93% of pregnant persons have cell phones.
Yeah.
And the entire population in the United States is reaching those numbers too. So
Wow.
I live in, California, and you walk out the door and we have a huge unhoused population issue. But let me tell you, not only do they have cell phones, when they ask for money, I'm like, I don't have any cash. They're like, I got Cash App. You can cash out me. And I say, I love it. You've got a cell phone. Okay.
Amazing.
So when
Amazing.
you talk about the statistics and the results, you said, 95% of your moms to 100% are thriving, as are the babies. So does that mean for your population, you've eliminated or dramatically reduced infant and maternal mortality? I can't imagine anyone has numbers that look remotely like yours.
I mean, we have to be honest. My numbers of our N is small as we
Right.
so we set for the company that we want that 90% of our babies are alive and thriving at 14 to 16 weeks postpartum, because we know that babies, unfortunately, are more likely to die due to complications that you just can't fix. If a baby has gastroschisis and you're in a place and you're not prepared for that, then this baby is going to have terrible outcomes and be in the NICU. And I can't say that baby is thriving at 14 to 16 weeks, because that baby's going to probably be in the NICU longer than that. However, with our moms, we know that 80% of maternal deaths are preventable. And that's where we come in. 80% of those deaths are like Corey, her name is Bowie. She was the Olympian, and she told people, she's like, something's not right. And they sent her home and didn't believe her. And she died. And actually, they think she had she was suffering from complications of preeclampsia that advanced to eclampsia and HELLP syndrome, and she died from that. Our moms
Wow.
don't get from preeclampsia to eclampsia because not only are we in connection with them every 2 weeks, they're in social media every day. They're in the group Prego Pods talking to other moms every day and asking questions. And then they're showing up in person at our events. And then on top of that, at our virtual events. So it's very easy for us to build relationships and know who they are, to know like, she's looking a little puffy. Like, are you okay? And yeah, my
Yeah.
head's been hurting.
So
Oh,
it's part of it, it sounds like, is the multiple points of contact and the frequent number of contacts.
yes. But I think it's also, you can do that, but you have to build that trust, and you
Yeah.
have to build that sisterhood, and you have to take the corporate part out of it. So on my side, when I do behind the scenes work, it's like we have to get this data, do the data, have them complete these type forms so we have it to continue to fund the work. But we don't bring into the community an organizational feel. It's very important.
Mhm.
My team knows I talk about UX, UI design all the time. What is the experience of our moms? And you know this from being at Health. From the time you walked in, what you smelled, what you saw, from the food to everything was covered to the way that they decorated the stages. We take all of that into consideration because we want them to have an experience, and it's the experience that continues for them to come back.
Would you say more of your benefit is for maternal side or for fetal side? Or hopefully, I'm sure it's both, but do you feel like it's beneficial for both equally?
I would probably say, because our focus is really on the moms, the maternal side, we follow moms up to 14 to 16 weeks postpartum where we collect the data. We engage the moms until they decide they don't want to engage anymore. So all my babies that I onboarded in New Orleans last year, I'm so excited because now they're all celebrating their first birthday parties.
Oh, that's
Oh,
so nice.
has
Because
I
your
just flew home from one. I was like, oh my
I
God, I
have to
cannot
ask
believe our baby's
one
won.
pressing question just about the prematurity rate, because that, of course, is linked to so many other complications, and it's still like ridiculously high. I think the last stat that I ever saw was maybe 1 in 10 babies are born prematurely, and I'm not speaking about those that are as a result of being multiples or for reasons of that nature. Has that level been checked in your platform, and do you see an improvement there?
No, actually, our premature rates are a little higher, but that's just because of the population that we serve.
Got
What
it.
we can say is that our babies aren't dying,
Yeah.
that our moms are recognizing preterm labor earlier than they would when they were sitting at home. And most importantly, when our moms present to clinical care, they know they
Yeah.
don't leave until they talk to one of their sheros. Because one of the issues we found with fetal losses, and we have, unfortunately, a couple of moms that have their new rainbow babies now, the statements are the same over and over. I went, they didn't listen, they sent me home,
Yeah.
didn't take me seriously. Well, that doesn't happen when you're a SHERO mom.
Right. I think
Amazing.
that's
Well,
a
you are
wonderful
doing,
note to close on. Yeah.
you are doing such amazing work. I mean, you're taking the folks at the highest risk and really changing their lives in very meaningful ways, not just for the 14 to 16 weeks after delivery. But having a healthy baby saves a lot of heartache versus having a sick baby that starts in the NICU and all the other possible things that come along with that. So that is amazing
One
work.
last
And
thing. I want to share one last thing that I think is really, really important. Having a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy, I learned, is important. But one of the things I know that they come back for is that they have a healthy village.
uh-huh.
And we're creating a village, and we're creating a community that wraps their arms around and celebrates women who have chosen to bring life into the world. And the government, as you know, had the longest shutdown, and most of our funding comes from the government.
Of course.
A lot of our moms were dependent on WIC and SNAP and other things that they didn't get for a while. And when I tell you, they rallied together. They shared resources that they had. We found a way. I was like, there's no way I could have done that in a clinic.
Yeah.
That's
That's a silver
That's
lining
amazing.
there, really is. Thankfully, that's hopefully over, but
That's a high to end on. We want to thank you so much for the amazing work you're doing and for taking time out from the many, many things that you're working on to make the world a better place and to spend some time with us. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do.
don't forget, subscribe to our podcast at businessofthev.com for the latest trends and trendsetters in women's health and business.